in our eyes. Primitive urge, feel the primitive urge. The senses in the air. The fire moves us. The pleasure yearn. Hunger is rage, need is the vision underneath your dress.
Sex, lust, you.
Sex, lust, you.
After the Flash next week on the Drive and Asylum double feature, we're going to be doing two movies we already know you're going to love.
Yes.
The Incubus and
Demons 2. Wow. I mean, I
Demons
forgot how
2.
much I love Demons 2 until I saw that trailer, Bill. Thank you.
I fucking love Demons 2.
Yeah.
I don't understand people that say it's not as good as the original.
Yeah, it's
to
fun.
me, it's if you like the original, I don't know how you couldn't like Demons 2.
Man,
But
that
whatever.
shot of the multicolored eyes running through the streets is a really good effect. It's super. It's like not the fanciest thing, but man, I love Demons. Both.
Yeah, it's nuts. It's
Yeah.
absolutely nutso.
Man.
It's like a comic book. People have comic book motivations in Demons. They're like the most crudest of stereotypical characters that just do exactly what you know they're going to do and are confronted with demons. It's funny. I think it's funny.
Well,
Like intentionally so.
The thing I love about it the most is like you get to the point where like, oh well, certainly they can't top the scene where a guy rides a motorcycle with a girl in the back and he's got a sword, and then a helicopter just randomly falls through the ceiling, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I guess they can't top it. So yeah, it's got so much good stuff in it. They're both like heavy metal movies too. Like the music's great in them, and like you know, and then what? There's a couple bands that maybe don't belong on the first one, in that but
Go West.
yeah, that's the one I was thinking.
We close our eyes.
I
Demons
guess
2
you
has a
need
very
one
new
guy.
wave slant to it. Gene Loves Jezebel, The Smiths,
Yeah,
and a couple other people I can't think of at the
Billy
moment.
Idol, right?
Well, he's in the first one.
Oh no, I'm thinking of the first one. Sorry, yeah, I can't remember who else is in the second one. I just watched a Franco movie that he assisted on in Germany, and it feels like very much the same part of Berlin. Like it's all like West German new wave bands are on the soundtrack. It's really good, but it made me think of Demons a lot because it's like kind of that same kind of world. You know what I mean? Where it's like
Nothing makes sense.
nothing makes sense, but there's like this giant theater that's a nightclub that why would all these people disparate incredibly disparate people be there.
Demons too. It has one of my favorite lines in a movie like this in it, where they're in the demon zone in the beginning of the film, like the little movie within the movie. These kids break in there and they're like, "We've done it. We found a demon, an instrument of evil. There's no danger." They really say that. I'm like,
Oh,
dude, you're in the middle of a fucking burned out city after an apocalypse and you found a monster and you're like, there's no danger.
I
What do you consider dangerous?
I feel about both of the movies within the movies. I'd like to see the whole movie, especially the movie that's in Demons looks really good. Like it's a
It's very
college.
slashery, isn't it? It's
Yeah,
not
it's
like a
super.
demons movie.
Yeah, it's way slashery, and I love it so much.
It reminds me of the direction that it could have gone. Like, say it was just zombies and they didn't turn into those monsters. It could have been something like, The Church,
Yeah,
which was a demons movie that really didn't have any transformations in it.
yeah. It was intended to be one. I'm sure next week I'll go through my list of what movies are Demons.
I know we're already talking about
Yeah,
it.
I know. And how many you know ones that aren't even really Demons movies or made in Italy somehow got retitled in Japan as Demons movie. So anywho, uh, we watched Guru the Bad Monk with everybody, and Becca had never seen it before, and I think she was stunned by the costuming in this movie. So I think she's actually working on a tiara kind of thing for me. The only costume that didn't impress me is the Archbishop, who had basically had like a fur coat, a satin jacket, a tiara, and an iron cross necklace. It really was kind of all over the place.
He was doing drag somewhere right
Yeah,
before he came there, that bishop.
he was a drag bikery kind of guy. I could kind of mix between them. Like he was very fancy, and he called everybody my boy. So he was kind of like the Thurston. Yeah, he was.
I
He
was
was
getting
very
Anna Fried from ABBA, or
yes,
Anna
and
Fried.
he sounded like Thurston Howell, like the way he had the Thurston Howell talk pattern. He's like my boy, my
Oh
boy.
yeah. Yeah, there was so many weird things going on in that movie, and you just like, who are these characters? They're just the sleaziest of the sleazy. There
But
was no.
the new priest when he was talking to her, and she was like telling him all the things that were going on. She's like, and she's like, and Igor. He's like, who's that? She's like, it's the Hunchback, and then just kept talking like it was no big deal. Like we're supposed to accept it and just keep moving on. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
he's a hunchback. Where do you see the vampire?
Yeah.
They just sort of casually, they're like, yeah, she's a vampire. She was bitten by that animal.
I also like that they're interrogating him, and he goes, "She has to have fresh." He goes, "Spit it out." And he goes, "Never mind." And then he just like does like a turn away from him. Then they turn
Yeah.
back to each other in that same scene when they're talking. There's like a dancing element in that scene, man.
Oh, I was impressed by when they're dragging the girl in at the beginning, and they do this like dramatic flourish where they spin around in a circle before they carry her there. Like they must have realized they were going to end up taking her in the wrong way, so they just spun around.
They just did a little move.
Yeah, they sold it. They really sold it. They brought their A game.
It's just man, it, there's a lot of stuff going on. Like everything's going on. There's these like weird pacts between like every character like is trying to establish like except for our good guy and girl, like our Romeo and Juliet couple, right? But like everybody else
Yeah.
is vying for who's going to be friends with me. It's very high school. Like who's going to be my you chose the wrong friend, and
Right.
and then everybody's like, who's the cool kid? Is Guru the cool kid that everybody has to be friends with? And then Igor's probably way down on the ladder. There's these
Oh yeah. He would have been
romance.
low on the social totem pole.
Everybody wants the young girl, uh, and the only pure one about it is the boy. There's a lot going on. And also, like contract signed in blood with a vampire.
What was she doing?
I
I mean, I don't understand that character at all, the vampire woman.
she
Because
has like kind of like an Amish kind of or Pennsylvania Dutch kind of hat. Like it's not
okay,
like 1600s. It's Pennsylvania Dutch.
wait, real talk here, like
Yeah,
serious questions.
yeah,
Was she Guru's lover?
yes. At
She
some
was
time,
Guru.
I
Yeah,
think
at
it's
one
some,
point,
but no
yeah.
longer.
Okay, so she was his lover, and then she was bitten by that animal,
Yeah,
turned into a vampire, but he just couldn't let her go.
arguably, if he is a holy man, would she not even be able to be his lover anymore? So that's kind of what drove them apart.
I think this movie firmly believes there is no God.
Oh, yeah, I know. I like that speech he gives her. He's like, they tell me to say all these things, and I do, but it doesn't work that way for me. Like all these like things I tell you how to behave, but not for me. It's very I get that part of it.
There was there was a quality to this that's like a soap opera-esque kind of thing, because that really is, like we were saying on the first segment, now we can openly talk about these spoilerish things. Uh, okay, so back to the vampire lover is where I was going with this. I'm still obsessed with her.
Yeah.
So in the end, I love how she freaks out. She's vulnerable. Even
Yeah.
though she's a vampire, she's vulnerable.
She's still a
I
person.
want
Yeah.
I don't understand what her powers are, because at some point she seems obviously like she can overpower somebody and attack them
And she
and
also
drink their
took that
blood.
that priest like just like beckoned him and he started following her.
Right.
Yeah.
So she has powers. So what is she so afraid of? Like his guru says he's gonna leave her and they have to split up, and boom, like she just turns on him and pulls out a knife. But she doesn't try and attack him as a vampire.
No.
So it's very strange.
My
Her
theory
rules.
my theory is this is gonna get really deep. Oh man. So she is a vampire, but came to him originally and was his lover, but started as a churchgoer. So at some point she believed in God and the rules of God, right? But now she's a vampire, which is like literally harmed by the symbols of God. Like she's an
Yeah.
enemy of the church now. And the reason that she needs Guru is that he forgives her each time and he lets her think that some instrument of God still could love her. And when she loses that part, that's when she like just goes crazy.
That's deep.
Yeah, sorry, that got way too deep.
No, it makes sense. I
Yeah.
think you just explained what Andy Milligan could not.
Yeah. But what she wants is bullshit. And Guru's the only person able to say, well, yes, it's bullshit. Do you know what I mean? But she
Yeah.
doesn't hear that from him. So.
Well, her character was obviously the one I'm most obsessed with. So I want her to have her own movie, like Olga's origin story.
Well, what this would be really great if it was a Dark Shadow style soap opera where we had like, months of like, whose side is this person on? Are they going to turn the girl bad? Or are they going to turn the guy bad because he has to send these things? And you could really get that's what I'm voting. HBO micro series, like a 9-episode, one season, Guru the Mad Monk, kind of Game of Thrones quality level movie. Let's do it.
The Guru universe.
Yeah, like an Andy Milligan cinematic universe where we get great. I don't know if there's any great directors to do this stuff now. Somebody
Could you
better than him.
imagine?
Yeah, I'm sure there's somebody. Guillermo del Toro does an episode. He would love it.
He
So
could have an entire monster, like an American Horror Story thing
yeah,
that they could stretch out over several seasons with like this monster rally cast
yeah,
of characters. I think this could totally work.
yeah. If we
Along
could
with
just, you could just tease the Archbishop arriving episode by episode because it took him 30 days to get there.
yeah, this Dark Shadows thing, I don't know why I never even thought about that. I never thought about Dark Shadows, but then now it makes total sense.
Where were you gonna say
Especially when
it goes with the series? Our new series goes with.
but they were the same year, 1970. That's when
Yeah,
um
that's what Dark
House of
Shadows
Dark
was super
Shadows
hot.
came out. Because that Barnabas only kills Julia Hoffman in the movie. At the end of this, she goes, "Barnabas, your face,"
Yeah,
and he strangles her. That doesn't happen in the series, and of course, and it goes on and on and on. But that was had an equivalent scene in this film with those two
it's funny
characters.
because in the Tarantino book, he talks about seeing Dark Shadows in the theater and being shocked because he had watched the show, and all of a sudden, when he saw the movie, he was not ready for Barnabas. At the end of the movie, about how he's dispatched, and it was just shocking to him how violent it was as a kid. So I thought that was pretty awesome. It made me think about how much I liked those movies when they played the drive-in.
Oh, those were essential. Well, House of Dark Shadows was
Yeah,
essential. I didn't see Night for
I like
many, many
Night a
years.
lot actually. Not as much. Oh no! Here comes Barnabas Collins. Ah!
Oh, the teeth.
Uh,
The killer teeth.
Good night.
Good night, Cotton Longwood.
Good night, Cubby.
Cubby is my little Barnabas Collins, but yeah, I like Night a lot. It's really Night of Dark Shadows. It's really loud. I was so excited. 22 played Dark Shadows when in the 80s. They made a big deal when they brought it back.
Yeah, that's the first time I saw Dark
Yeah,
Shadows was on 22,
yeah,
which was great because when they started it, they were showing it at like 6:30. It
yeah.
was early, and I could always watch it. But then suddenly they moved it to 11 o'clock,
That's when I
which
loved it.
was after my bedtime.
Yeah,
So I couldn't keep up with it like the way I wanted
I'd
to.
sneak down and make sure I caught a little bit of it before I went to bed.
Yeah.
But then they are 2 episodes in a row, so if you missed one, sometimes it may cut you through a Friday to Monday, and you miss a lot.
That show moved so slow.
I
It
know.
was super hard to stay interested in it, I have to admit. Like I
Well, that's
started
what the
watching.
movie's great because the movie feels like it's frenetic, but really it's not because you're seeing like 2 years of show, year and a half of shows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean it still fits into a 90-minute movie,
Mhm.
which shows you how
Yeah,
slow
that makes me
the
think.
movie
It's like,
moves.
hey, Dan, maybe you could have, like maybe sped up a little bit.
It dragged on. I remember the part where Barnabas had Maggie Collins in a dungeon or this room where she had to count the ghost. Sarah told her how to get out. There was a nursery rhyme, like 5, 6, count the bricks. And she, of course, escapes. But that took forever. It was like a whole week's worth of episodes that her little
Well, that's
escape
why
from
you
that
need
dungeon.
the Dark Shadow. You need the Andy Milligan version of Dark Shadows. So some of these scenes, like there's just a whole episode of Igor trying to get up there. Just that's
Yeah.
it. How appropriate at the end that he kills the guru by using the church bell, which is what we associate with hunchbacks the most.
That ending is fucking amazing. I love it.
It was Benny Hill for a little bit because everybody was chasing everybody. And then there's like nice play, and then right when he thinks he's escaped, she jumps out of the pews. Oh, so good.
I like it because Guru's just a player. He's
Yeah,
just a player, and all of his game is collapsing
everything's falling
before
apart.
his
Yeah,
he
yeah.
has no more empire, and he's just going to have to start over again. He's very
We were
desperate.
saying even if the church found out that he killed the archbishop, it's going to be at least 30 days because they're going to send a letter. They're going to send a letter back. Then they're going to send someone. So he's got like 2 months to figure out his next plan. But then he pushed it too far and pissed everybody off in person. and one of those three groups of people was going to kill him.
I really dig this movie. The whole time I was watching it, I was just rapt. I couldn't take my eyes off of Guru the Mad Monk, not for one second.
The costumes are a big part of it. So I said to Beck, I really wish I had thought this week about making a costume to go along with this movie. If I could have just come back with one of those crowns on, it would have just made my day.
Do you like Torture Dungeon?
I haven't seen that one yet. I got to see that one.
Oh, it's good.
Yeah,
but it's kind of like one that everyone talks about as one of the worst Andy Milligan movies, and I honestly I don't know how you could like one more than the other because they're all pretty much the same movie.
Yeah.
If not the story, just like the presentation and the kind of crazy shit that happens in it. Like one just flows into the other where I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Although we have to mention that Neil Flanagan was also in Fleshpot on 42nd Street.
Yep.
Guru himself, a veteran of Andy Milligan's.
What was his wig? We were talking about his wig a lot. Was it an old Beatles wig? Was that his hair?
I think it was a Beatles wig.
Oh, he must have found a Beatles wig like in a Goodwill. You know what I mean? So that would have been like 6 years or 7 years, past its prime.
You know what you won't find in a Goodwill?
Mm-hmm.
A Duran Duran wig.
Oh no, you won't.
Okay.
I thought you were going to say a copy of Titanic.
I was having I was following this Facebook post and I didn't take the bait because it was one of those things where I would like type up a big long responsive for why. But this guy was basically saying that Duran Duran was bigger than the Beatles, and that they had like outsold and outperformed the Beatles, and his reasoning for this wasn't based on anything other than the fact he was like, well, the Beatles only had little black and white TVs to be on, and they could only be on like one station, and Duran Duran was all over the place in the 80s. And I was like, yeah, you kind of answered your own question there, because the Beatles only had black and white TVs and people lost their fucking minds. Duran Duran was like a mass market, and I love Duran Duran, but I'm not going to say they're the Beatles. That's just ridiculous.
No. Oh my gosh.
But whatever, they did sell a shit ton of merchandise and records, just like the Beatles did. So in that regard, they're the same.
There's not even the argument like where there's bands that have like I'm not a band, but like Taylor Swift had so many number ones in a row. Do you know what I mean? Like what?
Sure.
But like Duran Duran didn't have like 30 number one singles in a row. Do you know what I mean? They had like 4 or 5.
They peaked early.
Another argument to be made: only one Beatle did a James Bond song, but all of Duran Duran did a James Bond song, and theirs was in color, and it had a different Bond. No, they're both Roger Moore's. Oh man, bridging the gap though. That's how long Roger Moore was James Bond. He went from Wings to Duran Duran. That's how you measure time.
I've seen Duran Duran 3 times.
Oh really? I've never seen them.
They're not even one of my favorite bands, but I saw them in '89.
That's why I thought they were one of your favorite bands, because I knew you had seen them 3 times. Because I brought them up to you and you're like, I don't really like it that much. I'm like, but you've seen them.
And every time I see them, they're amazing live. They are real musicians, and the sound that they make isn't like on tape or anything. They can really do that, and they're fantastic. They got better and better as the years went on.
Becca has Duran Duran fact to tell you, Bill.
Oh, what's that?
Go ahead. Why? Oh, his wife, John Taylor's wife, started Juicy Couture. Becca used to work in the store, in the Las Vegas store, their very first store, and John Taylor was in all the time. Whenever it was his wife's store. And they're very hands-on in the store, she just said.
He's an incredible bassist.
Yeah. You know what's? I was thinking the other day, because I was singing "Ordinary World," because that sometimes happens. And I was like, that was like their comeback, like their big, like
Yeah.
Duran Duran's back. And now that was probably 20 years ago.
I saw them on that tour too.
Oh,
That was the
really?
second time the Cranberries opened, and
Yeah.
nobody knew who the Cranberries were.
There was
It
no
was
need to
great.
argue.
It was. I felt kind of bad for them. They were setting up the stage while they were performing.
Hmm.
I don't know why, but like Dolores O'Riordan is
Yeah.
the front woman's name. Is she was barefoot on stage, and there were all these cables everywhere. I was like, oh my god, I fear for her. But they did a nice set. I wasn't
What's your,
really all that into them.
this is a good question to ask in the chat because you would never be asked this question at the same time. Favorite Beatles song, favorite Duran Duran song?
Ah. Oh, you want me to answer?
Yeah, you, but then this will give time for the chat while I think of an answer because that's a hard one. Because I was going to say,
That's not fair.
I was going to be an elitist and be like, the Chauffeur is my favorite Duran Duran song. But that's probably not true.
I don't know. I love so many songs by both of them.
You can pick more than one. Like you can pick three. So does that make it
Oh,
harder?
I don't know. The first thing for the Beatles that comes to mind is Something.
Uh-huh.
I love Something
That's a
because I
great
can
song.
remember that. Like I can remember adults in my family playing that music when I was only like probably like from the time I was a baby until I was like 2 or 3. I heard those songs. So they remind me of that period of my life. A Day in the Life,
Mm-hmm.
um, Revolution, Helter Skelter. I love the White Album. Manson
Yeah.
was right.
I really like uh the heavier kind of, like he's so heavy, like the end of that song is almost like a doom song. It's like the same riff like
Yeah.
endlessly repeating at the end. I really dig that, and then I like Your Blues a lot on the White Album because that's pretty distorted guitar and stuff. And I
Yeah.
love that. It's amazing that the same band that could do those two songs could do Please Mr. Postman within the span of 6 years. Do you know what I mean? And also like
Well, they did change fast.
yeah. Well, you got I Know What It's Like to Be Dead is a way different song. You know what I mean? Than it's just strange.
Yeah, I mean, Duran Duran probably oh my god. Anything from Rio, Hungry Like
Uh-huh.
the Wolf. I'm not ashamed to say that's one of my favorite Duran Durans. It's brilliant, and I only recently recognized it as a Mark Bolan ripoff.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
I never heard Bang a Gong in Hungry Like the Wolf, and then once I heard it, I can't unhear it now. I'm like, oh, that's the riff from Bang a Gong. But I love T Rex. If you're gonna steal from the best. I
Yeah.
love you, Duran Duran.
I like
Rio.
Union of the Snake a lot. Um, and Wild Boys, like that kind of era. I dig that. And then they did A View to a Kill is a really good song. It's a good Bond song.
I love it.
Yeah,
It's a fave.
yeah. It's got like really good. If it's cool because like it does. Some Bond songs completely avoid the John Barry theme, and then some get like super close to it and have spy kind of sounds in it. And that's why I like that song. And
Yeah,
I
they managed to
Steve
do it,
Wilson,
but do it their own way.
yeah. Steve's like Revolution and Election Day by Arcadia. Yeah, Bill and I were actually singing Arcadia on New Year's Eve because we were watching the new wave songs of '82 or '83.
Were we?
Yeah, there was like they showed Election Day. So I remember being really excited.
I kinda look to the day. Simon Le Bon was so over the top in that era.
He sure was.
So mannered and like affected.
He was also very much a poofy shirt guy, like Adamant. Like he would like throw on like a tunicky kind of thing, and you just be like, yeah, okay.
Electric Barbarella.
What'd you say, Bill?
A later Duran Duran song that I love.
Oh, Electric Barbarella.
I love them throughout their whole career.
Becca said I'm going to start getting tunics. You just yelled in the background. So
The kind you have to sew up in the front.
Yeah, like or why wear Danzig tunics, where he would wear those shirts that were like Renaissance fairy with no sleeves. And
I
like,
want her to start dressing you like Mosaic,
oh yes, like a German army trooper.
and I want you to start acting more like Mosaic.
Yeah, I have to wear my Mosaic. Girls on Film is a good song. John's right. I like that song.
Remember how dirty the video was supposed to be?
Oh, yeah. It
You
was
know how there were those legends like about Alice Cooper and the puppies and kittens and or chickens or whatever story you heard. Like there was a rumor about Duran Duran that they had produced a pornographic film that was hardcore pornography, and it was a video for Girls on Film, which is not hardcore pornography.
They had what, like 3 albums in a row for the initial run, like 3 or almost 4, maybe 4, and then like I don't know. I really like "Ordinary World of Life." That's a good song. That comeback kind of stuff's good too. And Bill, we've talked about the covers album too. It's interesting.
I love Thank You.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And their version of Thank You by Led Zeppelin, just it blows me away.
So this was hard for you to fight somebody about Duran Duran being important. It's just they're important, but they're not important.
It's just a dumb argument. Like,
Yeah.
why do they have to be bigger than the Beatles? You know, can't they just be amazing for being Duran Duran? Why do you have to compare them to
They
the
were one of the
Beatles?
biggest bands of the early '80s. Cool. That's big. That's pretty big.
The Beatles were so far in the past compared to them. Like the Beatles created that industry, but the industry had changed and morphed and gotten bigger and bigger at that point. So,
Yeah.
you know, Frankenstein, the Beatles created. How about that?
I just love that. That's such a weird argument.
Yeah.
Oh.
People get
I think
defensive about it.
But cars have always been more important than bikes. Like, well, sometime, I guess. Chariots are the same as cars. I don't know. There's like these weird discussions. And then when I see those online, I usually start firing off like a whole paragraph. And then at some point, I'm like, why am I fighting about this? Like I can't do that. It almost
I love
makes you look
Japan
bad.
too. Oh my God. Japan are amazing. That bass, that fretless bass. That was Japan, right? The fretless bass.
Yeah.
Or am I thinking it's not? It wasn't Visage.
No.
Visage.
No.
I saw Midge Ure in concert, and he did Fade to Gray
I
because
love
he was
that.
only in Visage for one album.
Yeah.
He claimed it.
Hey, you know what? It's a great song. It's been on a lot of mixes I've made. I will put that on.
Fade to Gray.
Yeah.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Hey, I'm gonna show you what came in the mail this week.
Yes.
These are both from MBD. This is the Kings of not Duran Duran. This is Kings of Thrash. It's most of Megadeth without Dave Mustaine, and it's a concert of them doing all Megadeth songs and CD and a DVD versions of the concert. So that's kind of cool. And then that's on Cleopatra, Bill. I know you
Of
love it.
course.
Cleopatra puts up movies, and then
Cleopatra coming at you.
this just came out from SRS. It's MBD is distributing it. Night of the Zodiac. My review is up on the site, but if you like shot on video stuff, this movie is as close as we're gonna get to a shot on video movie made this year. And Tim Ritter is interviewed on it. If you know SOV guys, Mark Clooney is in it, and it's made in Hazel Park, Michigan. Rebecca's from. It has one of the best kills I've seen in a slasher in a long time. A girl gets shoved onto a sprinkler, and the sprinkler pops out of her and starts spraying the whole way around. And it gradually gets more red until it just starts spraying blood. It's pretty awesome. There's a ton of SOV posters and old boxes. It's very much a shot on video fetish movie, but pretty fun. That's all I got this week. But 2 quality things. I haven't watched the concert one yet. I'm excited to Watch it. I think that's what would make Megadeth better if there's no Dave Mustaine. So excited to see how that turns out. So that's my fight. Is Megadeth bigger than the Beatles? No, they're not. Even though their P Cells was the music for MTV News, not as big as the Beatles. No worries.
Yeah, but they've been on
Oh
MTV.
yeah,
How could they not be
okay,
bigger
yeah,
than the
that's great. And
Beatles?
the Beatles didn't have a mascot, Vic Rattlehead. So this is a solid fight. It's what I almost threw in another one. Like they're bigger than the Beatles, but not as big as the Eagles. Like, wait, how? That's a big argument. Like thread that.
Bizarre. Hey, you want to see something cool?
Oh man, that is cool.
I was blown away by this ad that I pulled
Yeah.
out of a London newspaper.
I like that they said Zombies Dawn of the Dead instead of wow, that's kind of strange. I didn't know that it was called Zombies Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was. And it wasn't they played up zombies. I think that
Yeah.
it was just supposed to be known as zombies, but at some point they did cave and try and tie it into the English title.
Yeah.
So I don't know what was going on
What's
with that
crazy is
marketing
this is
campaign.
playing at like over 40 theaters just in London.
Yeah.
That's a major. Wouldn't you think that's like a pretty major release?
But can we talk about what the UK censors must have cut out of this?
I can't
Could you
imagine.
imagine?
Well, also because in the US there was nothing censored because they released it unrated. So it's not like cutting an R even. Like it was worse than an R coming over. Yeah.
So who knows what was even left in their version of Day of the Dead?
It's just all
But
the scenes in the TV studio, and then the helicopter flies out, and that's it.
sorry, I changed the camera layout on you.
And
Psych. Boing.
now I found myself.
I found myself too. Where did you find yourself?
I was I was gonna say I found someone that country song or that pop song, but I'm like
Cher.
sure, yeah. Is that who that
I
is?
love when you sing Cher songs.
Yeah. Isn't that what I'm known for? Mispronouncing names and share songs.
I did
What
another
other?
cool
You have
ad to show. I'm just
any
queuing it up.
other cool ads you found?
Yeah. You can tell when I'm just stalling for time, right?
No. I'll sing them. Whoa.
Yeah, how about that?
I don't think whoever wrote this review it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's
What were they
amazing.
thinking?
Because two things. One, it's almost like a little bit of salt, a little bit of sugar. Like it's like, hey, elves that inspired maybe a little more than a little from Gremlins, and probably ripped up Gremlins. But the effects seem like Ghostbusters. Like one's not a compliment, the other is a compliment. I love it.
It just makes me want to watch Troll 2 again,
Yeah,
to be honest.
it does. Well, it does. There's a lot of type in this ad, a lot of fonts, but somehow I still like it. Troll
Yeah, I
2
do too.
is way better. Whoa.
Why was this not the ad that we saw in American newspapers?
I mean, first off, the type design on Vamp with the V's and the teeth being on the left corner. It's everything in this ad leads to the starts today, the way that logo is placed. Like you can really trace up into it. It's really gorgeous design. I also like the hands kind of coming up. So this is almost like at this size being in a newspaper, right? It's almost like she's coming at you. Your hands in the same position.
Life size.
Yeah, love this.
I had never seen this kind of ad for Critters.
No, it's hiding in the mailbox.
Yeah.
They got good reviews for it too. Those are some nice reviews.
Critters was well thought of. Siskel and Ebert both liked it.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it's got to be good,
Cubby's
right?
grandfather was in it. He played one of the critters. Oh man, I love
This
the
one,
look of him in that ad. Well, they also had some really good reviews for this.
yeah. This kind of blew me away too. We didn't. I don't think our ads were this nice. I never paid attention to this movie when it was theatrical.
Oh, I was so excited about it. One of Becca's favorite movies.
Some famous director made it.
Yeah. Freddy's back.
These are all from London, by the way.
Yeah.
These ads that I'm showing you.
This ad really doesn't tease at the madness that is about to follow in Nightmare 2.
It's pretty pedestrian.
Yeah. I like that there's these like dying sunflowers. What are we to learn? I guess it's because he's night and they're day. I don't know. It's a weird ad.
I thought those were palm trees.
Oh, maybe they are. I thought they were sunflowers. Then yeah, it's weird that they're palm trees then. Where's he coming to Haddonfield from the first movie?
Oh yeah, there were lots of palm trees in Haddonfield.
Yeah. At first, yeah. Then it suddenly became Salt Lake City. Holy shit. Wow.
Sam, this is for you.
It really is. Oh man.
I mean, the live Pia Zadora experience. Could you imagine
Oh.
a musically impeccable evening?
Well, I'm excited because Robert Farnham's really good too.
Pia Zadora has an impeccable reputation.
A musically impeccable evening. Okay, that's one guy, I guess. Ebert and I'm suspect of going to this show. Not that I wouldn't go, but you know.
Well, you should be. You should attend things that you're nervous about attending, right?
Yeah, right.
That's a real experience,
It's a impeccable evening.
not this manufactured
Yeah.
Hollywood baloney.
Oh man! Wow, that tagline is so good. Why did they make a sequel to this movie?
Oh well,
Well, I know the business.
you know the answer.
Yeah, I know the business reasons, but
Cha-ching.
yeah. Well, they actually made a sequel, a remake, and then another sequel to the remake. There's a third one too, I think. Yeah, it's a really great movie though. That ad's awesome design too. I can't believe that picked up in newsprint.
Comment of the evening from Frank Palvino.
Yeah, okay.
That could be taken a number of ways, right?
Yeah.
Here's one that took me by surprise.
Oh.
Never seen this before.
They're roaming all over London, which is crazy.
And you know, it pisses me off because a couple of weeks ago, something happened on the Groovy Doom page, and all of a sudden I started getting like 150 likes on every post. It was crazy. And I got a message from Facebook like, Facebook has increased the visibility of your page and blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden it just vanished. And not only did it vanish, it took me back to a point where I was even lower than I was before they gave me all that attention. So I've been posting these great ads over the last week, and they're getting like, 15 likes, 15 post likes. I'm like, damn, Facebook, you do it to me when I have all this cool shit to show. This is so, look, they plugged The Damned and The Cramps.
Yeah. I mean,
Sam,
yeah.
take it away, Sam.
Yeah, I know. This is crazy. One that this played in a Canon theater, a Joe D'Amato movie, playing in a Canon theater, 2 Canon theaters. Also, Laura Gems are being in it. Also, Dagmar Lasseter being in it. And this is like almost Dagmar Lasseter classes this one up, you know. But
hmm
man, there's just a lot in this. So also, the one writer's name is Hermerus Zweetag, is pretty funny.
What is the plot of this film?
Uh, it's very much one of those a maid gets hired and she like everybody in the family falls in love with her and she kind of like fixes a lot of their problems. It's Joe D'Amato and Jess Franco made this movie 10 times each to varying degrees of ratings and success.
Is it pornish or is it just
It's classy.
titillating?
It's there's like love scenes and stuff. So yeah, but it's not like man, this is a horrible comparison. It's not that sleazy for a Joe D'Amato movie, but
Wow,
it's still a Joe D'Amato movie. So it's like
it doesn't sound right,
it's
Sam.
NC-17 at least. Yeah, but that's a hard thing to make. But yeah, it's very it's well shot. Like it looks like very much an actual film, like kind of like an early '70s like kind of American erotic romance movie. You know what I mean? Like, but not porn.
This is the only movie that Laura Gemser and Dagmar Lasseter appear in together,
Yeah, exactly.
at least according to IMDb.
What's funny is it's the first time you sent me this. It says, and Laura Gemser is whatever her name is, Hezerin, I think. But it's like I thought it said Laura Gemser is herself, and I was like, I don't remember this part of that movie, but that's pretty sweet.
Hi, I'm the real Laura Gemser.
She did do an exercise.
My voice is still Catherine Fonseca, just like Olga from Suspiria.
She did an exercise video in the U.S. when she was here for a bit, like a jazzercise video, and it's real weird because she talks in it, and like you said, not knowing really her real voice, it's real odd. Also, it's like, what was her appeal to like? And I don't know. I don't think that as many people knew her in the U.S. So it was weird that it was made and came out here. And then she made the costumes for what do you call it, for Troll 2.
Yeah, and she was like, you know what? I'm tired of being in front of the camera.
Yeah. Even though she did makeup and like costume design for a bunch of D'Amato's movies, he would always have her in them for like a cameo or like a really short role, and it was always like you're supposed to like think that this whoever the lead in his movie is the most attractive woman in the world, and it's like the 2 seconds she's on screen with Laura Gemser, you're like, I don't really think she's that attractive anymore. The other, you know what I mean? So like she kind of like maybe he shouldn't have put her in those roles, but they're good. I mean, she got to travel the world because of the movies that she did with him. Like her and her husband went everywhere making these, globe-trotting epics. So you can get that money and have fun and turn into that kind of thing. It's pretty rad. Also, as we said before, the only person on the crew of Troll 2 that spoke English. So she may have some responsibility for how things were translated. Maybe she didn't speak as good of English as we're supposing.
So, what else should we talk about on this? Really, it's the third segment, even though
It
it's
is.
technically the second.
I had a great interview with a director of a book, movie. I mean, a documentary called "The Other Fellow." It's all about people named James Bond and real people, and like what's it like to be named James Bond, and what's it like to have that life, for better or worse, across a couple different people. And it made me think about. He asked who my favorite James Bond was before starting the interview, and I was like, "Well, you're probably gonna judge me because it's Roger Moore." And he was like, "No, that's who I grew up with, so that's mine too." He goes, and people, as we did the movie, continually made fun of me for it. So it was making me think about that. And I heard actually Tarantino talking about it on his show too. So I was like, I was thinking, who's your favorite, Bill? I thought that would be. I was wondering who your favorite Bond is.
Moore.
Roger
Moore.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I tried to get into the Sean Connery Bonds when I was younger, and I couldn't deal with it. It wasn't Roger Moore.
Mhm.
I've since come to appreciate Sean Connery, but Roger Moore will always be James Bond to
Yeah.
me.
It's funny. One of the things Tarantino said is that Roger Moore was kind of James Bond before he was James Bond. Like when he was the Saint, when he
Hmm.
was in other movies, like he was pretty much filling in the archetype of Bond. Just he kind of aged into the role by the, eventually and started doing it.
They used to show The Saint on the CBS late movie too.
I
Remember that?
loved it too. And the Return of the Saint was syndicated, so I used to watch that too. It's funny because when I watching the movies now, like when Pierce Brosnan came in and Timothy Dalton, like I didn't like either one of them. I think because I loved. I also realized that Roger Moore probably shouldn't be, you know, shouldn't be sleeping with Grace Jones in movies. Like you know what I mean? But I still liked him. But I think I've kind of come around to Pierce Brosnan as Bond. I think a bit, and
You
Timothy
mean he's
Dalton.
your favorite?
No, he's not my favorite. Roger Moore's my favorite.
Oh, I thought Pierce Brosnan was a decent Bond.
I thought he's decent though. He has a good. He was supposed to be Bond a lot sooner, but that Remington Steele contract,
Hmm. Yeah, I loved Remington Steele, so that's probably why I liked him more as
Mhm.
James Bond. But
Yeah,
I'm sure everyone says that.
yeah, and I guess it's interesting because we were kind of talking about how like the sequelization of films today, where there's 5 or 6 Marvel or DC movies a year. Like James Bond's the only other franchise I can think of that went that long. But the difference is like different directors made them totally different movies. The '70s movies are not just because of more, but they're more like tighter movies, like from The Spy That Loves Me on. You know what I mean? And then the latest ones are maybe more violent and closer to Born Identity than James Bond. But it's interesting that so it's not a series that like hasn't changed and morphed over time.
Did the Broccoli's make those movies?
They sold the latest ones. They didn't. They sold the rights.
But I mean, The Spy That Loves Me
Yeah,
and the
they did.
70s
Yeah,
Bonds, they were the ones that produced that,
yeah. It's funny
the
because like
franchise.
they have the thing. I remember when The Spy That Loved Me came out, being obsessed about the car, the scene where the car goes underwater. Or is that in
Yeah.
Free Rides Only?
You what?
That's in Spy That Loved Me.
I think so.
Yeah,
I don't know. I get them mixed up, the earlier ones.
the
The
Lotus of
first
Spirit. I
the
had.
first
Hmm?
the first one I remember is Moonraker,
Yeah,
because that was I went to see it in a theater, and it never even occurred to me that the movie really doesn't take place in space, because they made it look that way for the poster.
what was their
I w-
Star Wars?
yeah, I was a little disappointed by that aspect of it, but I thought it was great. I loved it.
The funniest thing about that movie is that Jaws. The reason he turns good is so many people little kids wrote to the director, like whole schools of kids wrote, and they said we want literally the. I don't know how the PR works for this, but they were all like, we don't want Jaws to be a baddie anymore. We want him to be a good person, and he was like, I guess we better do it. Okay.
Okay.
I guess we get past all the horrible things he's done because he's found love. But originally, his girlfriend in it was going to be taller than him, and Richard Kiel was like, my real wife's like 4'10", and they're like, no. And then they saw it, and they're like, oh, that's pretty funny. So that's why the girl that ends up with Jaws is with the braces and everything is so tiny. I was obsessed with those
Um,
movies as a kid, though. I can't lie. Like, uh, I think between Octopussy and like Blue Kill, I was like my prime. Like mania of like wondering what the next Bond was going to be about. Being excited when it was in Starlog or something.
Starlog, man. I was Fangoria.
Yeah,
I wasn't really into the science fiction as much as I was I mean, I liked it, but for for a mag, it had to be Fangoria.
yeah.
I never bought both of them.
I graduated up from like I would always read Starlog and be like creeped out but fascinated by the covers of Fangoria on the last pages. And then once I finally started reading, I was like, oh, this is kind of what I was missing.
My first Fangoria was number 8. It had zombie on the cover.
I definitely bought number 1 because they had Godzilla on the cover, and I bought any magazine as a kid with Godzilla.
You still have it?
No, no.
I don't have any of mine either.
I have a couple of my Star Logs, and I have mostly comic book stuff, like comic book magazines. But yeah, I sold off a lot of that stuff. I wish I could.
Mine, truthfully, I read mine so many times they fell apart. Like the covers had fallen off.
That's
This
probably what
was
happened
like,
to mine because I had like a stack of certain magazines that I always came back at.
yeah.
And I, like you said, like at some point they were just unreadable. They were like just a couple pages.
I remember they had a contest, a secret contest in one of the issues. It was the one with the exploding head from Scanners on the cover. I think it was like number 10 or number 13. And there was a secret contest in it where they hid little wave thingies all throughout the magazine, and you had to like figure out every single page that one of those little wave symbols appeared on, and then mail something into an address, and you would win Scanners merch.
That's great.
Yeah, I never did it because it was I bought it as a back issue, or I bought it too late. And I was like, I'm sure someone already got it.
Never know. Like maybe
I know I should have done it. I don't know why I didn't.
One time
it was cool though. The print was really small. You had to be reading all the fine print, and it was hidden in the credits of the magazine, and that's where I saw it. And I was like, oh, it was like, congratulations, you found the secret contest.
Oh man, that's cool. They did that kind of stuff in that magazine. I loved reading those. That and Gore Zone, I guess that too.
Gore Zone.
Gore Zone, yeah.
I had a couple of those too.
Yeah. So I miss those days. It was exciting. I think I had a subscription to Starlog for like 2 years, and like getting it in the mail was like the coolest thing. You know what I mean? Like this like amazing window to other movies comes in, into your house. I have a message to you, Bill, from Down Under. How about that?
Oh, right on. Thanks for watching.
That's awesome. Thanks, guys.
I wonder what time it is there. It's almost 2:30. That's 2:15 in the morning here. And we still have 18 people. So thanks to all of you for hanging out with us tonight. I don't even know what we've been talking about for all this time.
That's all right. We were, I think, stunned by the beauty of the Andy Milligan, and at that point we were like,
oh yeah.
Yeah.
I still want Olga to have her franchise moment. And I think Mike Justice said that he doesn't like Guru as much as he likes Torture Dungeon. I kind of see it. I mean, Torture Dungeon might be a little better than Guru. I'm not sure, but like I said, if you like one, you gotta like most of them.
Yeah.
So that's my takeaway from Guru. Is I think it's really exciting at the end. I love the ending. Like you don't get any action for the whole movie really, but you get that. So at least that's something.
It's all building up to that. I mean, you also do get a bunch of people stabbed in the eyes with a cross and burned with a cross, and that girl, the one that gets burned early, is really a ton of screaming.
Oh, there were so many screams. This was this very screamy movie, although not as screamy as Alucarda.
That's the gold standard of screaminess. Though we've shown a lot of movies with people screaming, women especially screaming. It's a thing. Maybe it just fits in slow-moving movies where people eventually just start screaming. It's a driving style movie.
I don't know why. Like movies never show guys screaming, and I've heard some guys scream.
Halloween or Friday the 13th. The one with Corey Feldman. What's that? 4. That guy, whatever. The whole movie, you're set up like he's a hunter, and then when Jason finally gets him, he's like, "He's killing me." That's one I can think of.
There's got to be some famous guy screams. There's the Wilhelm scream as a
Yeah.
guy.
Oh, there's the screaming zombie too. Like they're killing her. They're gonna kill Mary. Like
Ah!
that's a pretty good scream.
Did you ever like know a guy who had a really deep speaking voice and then he screamed and it was like a woman screamed?
No, but that's pretty awesome.
If he's taken by surprise or something, a real high pitched scream.
One of my wrestling buddies is like a really tough dude, but in movies he jumps around. He gets like scared and he'll literally jump out of his seat and run down the aisle. It's hilarious. But like meanwhile, like he's one of the toughest guys I know. But I don't know why. He's just like I just get so wound up about movies. And I'm like, okay. I've never gotten that wound up by Van Helsing. Like that was
I'm envious of people that can sustain that.
he
You know, I
can.
think it's sort of like a you know, a high that we've all been chasing all of our
Yeah.
lives. Is like that feeling that we got when we were young and we watched these movies, and I rarely feel that anymore. I wish I
Yeah.
could be afraid of movies.
Yeah, it's few and far between when it happens.
The only things that
Try to imagine myself in that audience. I was talking to this another shot on video director, and he said he's a really big fan of Dracula, and he said, you know, in 1931 there hadn't been any movies that came out where there was a true supernatural, influence in them, and that it was usually like a criminal behind it, and it was all like Scooby Dooey, right? But he's like in 1931, this was like The Exorcist, so you have to like it may seem like unfrightening to you now, but like to a really religious audience of people that were like this was like super horrifying to them, just as The Exorcist was when it came out. But we watch it today, and it's like, yeah, are you afraid of it? No,
yeah, we're back to the Beatles conversation again.
sorry.
Because no, but I mean, like, you know, that Dracula and the early horror films, they were the ones who sort of like put the whole thing in motion. And by the time we came along, it was The Exorcist.
Yeah, like Hammer movies were shocking when they came out because they had blood. You know, the ending of Dracula's censored and everything, and it's like you watch those today, and they did play in the afternoon, Saturday afternoons when I was a kid.
Yeah, it was kind of like, you know, it was kids stuff.
Yeah.
The thing that had been so shocking. Do you think that The Exorcist will ever be kids stuff though?
No,
No.
there's stuff in that movie that's still upsetting to people today. Language.
I was mad because I saw it in the 2000 version. Remember
Yeah.
that?
Oh
With
yeah.
all the new stuff in it. I went and saw that in a theater. Nobody was paying attention to it. I was pissed because nobody was afraid, and I was like, "Yeah, this version really was not scary." It sort of took the wind out of my sails.
Oh, that isn't how it should be. I think of like people. The idea they talked about people fainted during Dracula too, at the time, and like how horrifying these movies were to people. Like we've all talked about the reaction tape of Halloween in '78. That sound when Michael Myers first sits up, like how loud the audience was.
Oh
Like
my
imagine
god!
like not knowing, not seeing. Yeah, we always talk like imagine if you. I wish I hadn't seen this movie so I could see it now and get the experiences of my first experience of seeing it. But imagine being surrounded by that audience and that happening.
It's been a long time since I've been in an audience that reacted like that.
Yeah,
Everyone's so quiet at movies; it doesn't really matter. But that's like those people went there to scream.
that's why I
You
like
know?
when you showed Pieces. The audience was really bought into the spirit of Pieces.
I think that's the last time I had a really great audience
Mhm.
reaction experience was when we screened Pieces.
Yeah.
It was just amazing. Everybody was into it and, you know, laughing and screaming. It made me realize what an effective film that truly is.
Oh, especially the ending. Because I remember we talked before we went in. You're like, I wonder how many people haven't seen it, and that ending's gonna fuck them up. And when it happened, like everybody was like, it was like a mixture of like cheering and like oh, like it was pretty awesome.
Horrified screaming. There,
Yeah,
there were some male screams in that
yeah,
audience.
yeah. That ending still will never make sense to me. But
There's no way for that ending to make
oh,
sense.
but it's
It's
perfect though. Like, what other ending would be better? You know?
to me, it's sort of the director, like somebody thought that up. You
Yeah,
know, obviously the first inspiration would be Jason jumping out of the lake in Friday the 13th, and
yeah,
maybe that is what they were like. What could we do? But you know, it could also be the director saying that like this movie was really kind of dumb
yeah.
and it wasn't meant to be taken seriously. He just pushed it into the realm further into the realm of the absurd.
But yeah, at the end of it's kind of like, well, there's nowhere else we can go but here, and
Yeah,
like, oh, you thought that this, how could this body be alive all these years? It's been sewn together from different people. It doesn't matter. It is. I appreciate that.
yeah. Vince said that he was desensitized early, and nothing creeped him out. The thing that got me excited, especially about Halloween, is I remember thinking that Halloween was scary, but the thing that made me excited about Halloween is it scared other people, and I
Yeah,
loved being around other people that were afraid of it.
it
And
went.
I wanted to watch, like the first time I watched it was with babysitters.
Yeah,
And it was amazing because it was literally the situation we were in that night was in this movie and there was a killer after them. So it was, crazy
when it
fantasy.
played HBO, I remember my dad wouldn't allow us to see it. He stayed up and watched it and kept the lights on when he went to bed because that's how creeped out he was by the ending. And like when you're like 6 or 7 years old and your dad is afraid of something to the point that he's going to sleep with the light on, like not even seeing the movie, it already had affected me. Like it had to be the scariest thing ever. If the guy who is my role model was afraid of it and showing me that he's afraid of it.
Yeah, I liked when movies that the adults were afraid of,
Yeah,
like The
Jaws.
Exorcist,
Yeah, Jaws. Everybody was freaked out, about.
Jaws.
Yeah.
Do you remember people talking about Jaws?
Oh yeah. I remember my cousin spoiled it to my dad. We were swimming in the pool, and he said, "Oh, I just got back from seeing Jaws." And before my dad even said, "Hey, we're going to go see that," he was like, "They blew the fucking thing up again. It's the same ending." And my dad was like, "Well, I guess I don't have to go see that one."
Yes, you do. Even if you know the
Yeah,
ending. We were talking about M. Night Shyamalan
yeah,
earlier, and I think you know, the Village. Chris Fasonic said that he saw it coming. I saw it coming too, and I think that even when you know the twist, it's still fun to watch. And the same as
yeah.
with Jaws. Even when you know what's going to happen, it's so well made that you can't help but get sucked up into it.
Are you saying that M Night Shyamalan's bigger than? Sorry.
Yes, he's been on more screens than
Yeah,
Spielberg. I mean, Spielberg didn't have HD. Okay.
yeah. No, I agree. That I think even like even though I've seen Jaws so many times, like I still think about like there's moments in it that I don't notice or haven't picked up that become more important to me in a different watch. And that's what's cool about that. That movie can do that. Especially, I think older movies have more of those moments. Like there's multiple times in Jaws where I'm like, wow, like this is great. Sometimes even just like little character bits in it.
I also get a little freaked out because I'm not entirely sure. I don't know that movie well enough to know what footage was in the original version and what
Yeah.
wasn't. Because there's another version floating around out there with all this additional footage in it that was shown on TV.
Oh
And I
yeah.
remember watching that and I'm like, I don't remember any of this stuff happening. Like there was like a scene where they were feeding their dogs, and it was stuff that I knew I had never seen it before. And Jaws 2 wasn't out yet.
Hmm. Well, they would when they would play those movies on TV, they'd be like a 3 hour event, and you'd be like, oh man,
I know.
45 minutes of that is commercials.
Now that's anything you watch.
Oh,
There's like 10 minutes, 5 minutes of the movie and 15 minutes of commercials.
it drives me nuts. Especially like I don't pay for YouTube like you do, and like I'll get it like on some videos it'll be like every 3 minutes. I get a 5-second video or a 10-second video. It doesn't allow
Yeah.
you, at least on TV, you could tell when stuff was ramping down, and you had like some warning when commercials were coming. Now you just get that timer out of nowhere.
Yeah. I hated it. I mean, I totally caved, and it's only like $13 a month. Totally worth it. The best $13 you could spend in a month.
Yeah.
Don't get coffee for a couple of days. There's your YouTube money.
Yeah. That is smart. I should probably do that. But then I'm like, I'm in advertising and I feel bad. Like, my industry.
You feel bad for giving people money?
Yeah, but it's like taking away from the people making the ads. Now I can't see the ads.
They're still going to get paid. Those ads are still going to get made.
I know. I know.
And you're going to see them eventually. I mean,
Oh, I know.
you see the same shit on TV that you see on YouTube.
Yeah, I see so much.
Insurance commercials.
And lawyers.
Lawyers, yeah.
Yeah. And healthcare. That's who buys ads in Pittsburgh.
Oh my God, the Edgar Snyder commercials are making me tear up.
Oh, the new ones? Yeah.
Yes.
I wrote the website, by the way. Isn't that weird?
You what?
I wrote the new Edgar Snyder website.
That's right. You told me that.
Yeah.
I totally forgot about that. Did you create this ad campaign?
I was shown the ad campaign before it ran. So I had to write stuff that was really conversational of like how we help people.
Wow.
Yeah. So
I had no idea that you were somehow behind all this, Sam.
I'm not behind it. I was just privy to it. Though all the PA Lottery Gus commercials, that is Adam does those. So I yell at him all the time. They're on nonstop. I get a lot of lottery commercials. So he also did the Christmas one that played repeatedly. Matt's question is great. That would be Jaws 4. Well, maybe a bit of 3 too. Did you have the Jaws game when you were a kid, Bill?
I did.
Wasn't that great? Where it had like
I did, and I ended up getting another one for some reason. Like,
really?
I think something happened to my original one.
The rubber bands broke on his would snap his jaws.
Probably.
Yeah.
You know, they recreated that game for Alligator.
I know. You've seen that they were going to do a card game too, right?
Yes. Oh my God. It was basically the same concept, wasn't it?
Yeah. I just am amazed. Like, could you imagine if that came out?
The car? Oh my God.
Yeah.
There has to be prototypes out there.
Yeah. I've only seen the catalog ad for it. And, they built something that the kids are playing with. So, yeah.
Did you have any horror toys when you were a kid?
Yeah, I had the Shogun Warrior Godzilla and Rodan. And then I had the Mego Universal Monsters, both the fabric costume ones, the 6-inch ones, and I had the little ones that were like G.I. Joe size, the 3 3/4-inch ones.
Oh, wow.
And
Did you have all of them?
Yeah, I had all of them, and they had like a little vinyl castle for the little ones, and it had a table that you put them on, and it sparked, and it had like the Tesla coils and stuff. And like it had like chains that went over them, and you could chain Frankenstein down. It was pretty rad. And then I had the Max Effects Matchbox Freddy Krueger figure that got recalled.
Wow.
Which is a really cool toy. There was going to be an Alien figure of those, Bill, and it never came out.
I had the original Kenner Alien action figure.
Wow.
Which I wish I still had it. It would be worth like, at least $1,000.
Yeah.
I think it went in the garbage. Ugh.
It's amazing now that you can go to Target and get a Leatherface or Jason figure. And like if those had been out in the 80s, like I would have lost my mind,
Yeah, I don't even know. Like, how could they have marketed something? The video game for Texas Chainsaw was the first time I saw anything marketed to kids that was based on TCM.
Yeah. Well, they had the Friday the 13th game, but by that point, the series was kind of neutered. It wasn't like, you know, like 1 and 2.
What system was Friday the 13th game for?
NES.
Oh, okay.
It's super hard.
Well,
Actually, my band used to have one of our patches was the end screen. It says "You and your friends are dead. Game over."
I
We just
remember that now. I
yeah,
see
it had this
screen
like
caps
little
for that.
gravestone. Yeah,
Texas Chainsaw Massacre was for Atari.
yeah. Wizard Games made it.
Wizard Games, and they also did Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
There was another one too. What was the other
Custer's
one?
Revenge.
What?
Custer's Revenge. They made.
I meant another horror movie that
Oh,
Alien.
Alien. Yeah,
Alien had a game. It was like Pac-Man, basically.
yeah. It looks exactly like it. I've seen it. Yeah.
The horrible Atari Pac-Man that came out.
That's
Oh,
the first time I wrote an article for a magazine about that once. That was the first time I was ever disappointed in my life. Because that came out, I think I was 8, maybe, or 9. And, I remember being so excited because to get to go to an arcade and Pac Man was a really big deal to get to play it.
it was, yeah.
And the idea that I could have this experience whenever I wanted, what a concept that is. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's a lot to get my head around. And then I remember we drove the hills, which was 45 minutes away, got it. And then that whole car ride back, my parents said, we're going to eat dinner before we go home. And it was like hell because I had this cartridge in my hands, right? And I kept reading the book and I think it was the most I've ever wanted something non-physical from another human being, right? Was that game to be the arcade Pac-Man. And then when it started, it was just, do you remember that like, it was like a punch in the gut.
Yeah. It was hard to take.
There was no
And
internet to warn you how shitty it was going to be.
that's a good point, yeah. Although I wasn't the one, I didn't buy it. A friend of mine bought it.
Yeah.
And he brought it over, and because I had, so it was, the pain wasn't all that severe, but it
Everybody
was,
in my family gathered in the TV room for it. And we all made sure everybody was done with their homework. Do you know what I mean? Like we had nothing else to do that night. And I just remember when it started up and my brother said, why is it brown?
what was good? Ms. Pac-Man
Miss Pac-Man for Atari was great.
for Atari was fucking amazing.
That's what I wanted Pac-Man to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So at least there was Ms. Pac-Man. I like Ms. Pac-Man better than Pac-Man because I'm really good at Ms. Pac-Man. The original Pac-Man, not so much. I don't know why.
Miss Pac-Man had fun. Did you ever read any of the books that would give you the patterns for how long to hold it in a different
Oh,
way?
exactly.
Yeah.
I memorized one and I could get through all the boards on Ms. Pac-Man.
Oh,
How
man.
lame is that?
No, I love that video games were so hot that at one point a paperback book just of Pac-Man patterns could come out and be a big
Hmm.
seller. Like that's crazy.
Whenever I play, I still do most of those patterns. I
Yeah,
remember them. But now I just sort of kind of wing it.
yeah. But that's what was cool is like if you for that game, like other video games, like you have to move and shoot different ways, but you could just play Pac-Man, not even look at the screen and get through it because of patterns.
I remember the first time I saw kids playing with a pattern.
Yeah,
It was in the Murphy Mart in Harmerville. They had a Pac-Man machine there, and they were just standing around. Like I was mad because I couldn't play.
yeah.
They were there. Remember that not being able to do something because other people were doing it, like use the phone or play Pac-Man.
You had to line a quarter up on their game.
Yes.
You didn't want to get in the way of their game and fuck them up though.
And even then, like you could lay the quarter there, but if they were a senior and you were in 8th grade, they weren't gonna pay attention to you. They weren't gonna honor your quarter.
Well, and also once continues started on games, it was like, well, you know, I'm going to keep playing this. I have another dollar until I'm done. Like you're gonna have to wait, and then
Oh yeah,
you don't want someone to take your continue because you did all this work to get to this point. They're
sure.
just going to hop in the game, and then the worst is like games like Double Dragon where people would buy into your game. Like you're like, I've made it this far all alone. They just come in for like a level, and get the feeling of completion.
I had lots of horror toys like when I was a kid because from early on everybody asked me what kind of stuff I wanted. I wanted monster stuff.
Mhm.
I had this awesome color forms set. Do you remember color forms?
Yeah.
When I was a real little kid, someone got me Castle Dracula color forms.
Oh wow.
There were all these monsters. Every Universal monster was in it. Phantom, Frankenstein, the Mummy. And I used to play with that all the time. I had these awesome paint by number kits that had glow in the dark paint with them. That was fun. I had the Dick Smith movie monster makeup kit.
Oh wow.
I ordered it out of Fangoria or Famous Monsters, one of them. That was really exciting. I made some gory looking makeup with it. No pictures,
Oh man.
unfortunately. I had this game when I was super young. Do you remember the shooting games from the early 70s
Mhm.
where you would put a piece of plastic in a projector and then you would like do a
We
shooting
had
game?
the like a flying World War One plane one.
Yeah, I remember
Yeah.
that one.
Yeah.
I had one called Ghost Gun.
Oh, I've seen pictures of it. Yeah.
Ghost Gun was pretty fun. I remember that, but I couldn't quite figure. I was too young to figure out that plastic thing. I didn't
Yeah.
understand.
Well, it was interesting because it was like a most cap guns. All you had to replace were the caps. This you had to totally replace screens and buy packs with new stuff in it all the time. You know. We had one that was literally like a film strip that went through and it popped holes in the things you were shooting at.
I like a table or a stand up, Frank. I'm
Mhm.
versatile.
Did you ever play Pac-Man Pinball? You remember when they had that?
Yes, I love Pac-Man pinball.
Yeah.
I first played that at the 1980 World's Fair
Oh
in
wow.
Tennessee.
Oh man.
It was pretty amazing. They had this giant, well, it looked giant to me because I was 10 years old. It was a big tent full of video games
Oh
and
yeah.
pinball machines. It was just, and of course, I couldn't stay in there longer than like 15 minutes because my parents weren't going to let me. But I did play Pac Man pinball there.
They had Cedar Point had a huge arcade when we used to go there. I've never been into the Kennywood arcade though. Every time I've been there, it's closed.
Really?
Yeah,
How is that possible that you've never
I
been in
don't
the
know.
Kennywood arcade?
I've been to Kennywood 3 times in my life. Every time the arcade's been closed.
Oh, well, you've only been there 3 times. That
Yeah,
explains it.
yeah.
Why have you only been there 3 times?
Never. We only went to like Cedar Point and SeaWorld when we were kids. I
But
don't
I
know
mean,
why we.
you're in your 50s now or your 40s, so
No,
don't you
I'm
ever?
50. I'm 50. Yeah, I just don't like Kennywood. I'm mean about it. Once they took Garfield out, you know, go on. But
Oh,
Becca
you
likes it all, so
you
I've been there.
wanted Garfield?
Oh yeah, that was my favorite ride.
Oh my God, Sam, I was
I,
so hostile and bitter towards Garfield for
oh no,
this.
I love him because I used to get on it with Becca, narrate the ride as Garfield the whole way. Oh John, why do I have this ride? Why are they doing this to me? Just and she loved it, so we really bonded over Garfield being in there.
For those of you who don't know what we're talking about a dark ride in
Yeah.
Kennywood Park in Pittsburgh, and it's one of the last water rides, pretzel rides, indoor. It's like a track that you get in a boat and it floats along, and it took you through. It used to be called the Old Mill, and they had all these
No,
scenes
it
in
is
there.
again. Yeah.
Well, now it is the Old Mill again, but it was originally called the Old Mill or something, and it had all these skeletons in it. There were all these scenarios where skeletons were like, there was a scene inside a jail cell, like a Western themed jail cell with all these skeletons. There was a skeleton sheriff and a skeleton prisoner trying to get a ring of keys with a big stick from inside the jail cell. And then there was an outdoor section, like you'd go by a window and you could see the courtyard of the pretzel ride, and in there was like a stagecoach with skeleton driver and skeleton passengers. And then they took it out and they turned it into a Garfield ride. I was bitter.
It's awesome. Garfield gets attacked by like food, like pizza tries to kill him, or lasagna tries to kill him.
It was 3D. You had
Yeah,
3D
it's pretty.
glasses when you went through there.
And then gradually over the years, they just stopped painting stuff, so only some things were 3D, and all the eyes that were supposed to be white were just dark. So Garfield's eyes just looked soulless, like he was in the beyond. And like, so I loved that. And then there were ads for like Pepsi products in it that were ancient, like several logos ago. So everything felt like super dated when she rolled into Garfield. It's it, it really is my favorite part of Kennywoodville. I don't know why. It's also not a ride that's going to break my back. I get off other roller coasters and with bad
Yeah.
back from wrestling. It's like I feel like whiplash when I get off them. Also, Becca doesn't always tell me when one's going to go backwards and loop. She's like, this one's easy, and then all of a sudden I'm upside down. But I don't know. I just never got into it. I think when we went to parks as a kids, it was like not a fun experience, and so like I never had like I love theme parks feel. I feel mean saying that.
You sound it's kind of crotchety, Sam.
I know.
No, not
sorry.
really. I get it. Like I used to feel that way because roller coasters and circle rides sometimes made me sick,
Yeah,
and nobody that I went with, no one in my family understood what that was like to get motion sickness, because I didn't feel like doing anything except lying down on a bench somewhere, and everybody would get mad at me. They're like, "Oh, Bill got sick on a ride again." So I get it.
yeah. Just that wasn't anything. I don't know. And my mom would drum in anytime we were at like a carnival how dangerous it was and that we weren't to ride things. Because she saw something in 2020. So I think it all just made me a fuddy duddy.
If it was about a carnival, she was right.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We also like used to help work the church like carnival, and when those everybody would get to inspect the rides before, and it was like yeah, don't get on this. Though a Catholic carnival has a lot of gambling, so that's really the whole reason to go. Like I don't know why you know it's not a sin, and you can play chuck a luck and poker for money as a
There was a
kid. But
great carnival that came through my hometown when I was a kid, and it was like the real shit, like with weird looking carnies that ran it, and they would come and set up these rides. And the big rides were the same every year. They had, of course, like a carousel, a scrambler, and they had this double Ferris wheel, and it scared the shit out of me because I went on it a couple times and it scared me. I didn't
yeah,
like it. And but what freaked me out the most was like this wasn't there the day before, and then all of a sudden like you're gonna go get on it. Like, I didn't feel very secure on those rides even as a
they had
kid.
the Canfield Fair and the Butler Fair used to have a haunted house like pop up carnival ride that you could walk
Ooh, the Butler Fair.
through.
Do you
Yeah.
remember the ride at the Butler Fair called the Swiss Chalet?
Oh yeah.
I loved the Swiss Chalet.
Yeah.
Holy shit, I can't believe you remember that.
Yeah. It probably played like the Matterhorn kind of music when you were on it too, like yodely kind of stuff.
Do you remember describe it to me? Let's see if
Like
we're
yodely, like kind of like the climber on Price is Right.
I just so we know we're talking about the same thing. What was the Swiss Chalet like when you got on it?
Is it one of the ones that went around in a circle, or am I thinking Matterhorn?
No, yeah, you're thinking of the Matterhorn.
Oh,
This
okay.
the Swiss Chalet was this weird ride that it looked like a castle turret, and there was a track like like a coaster track, but you were sitting in a chair, this big ornate chair, kind of like the ones that used to be in Lake Cachot at Kennywood, like the
Uh huh.
ride through haunted house. It was like that. It was like a big carriage or something, but you would ride it up. It would go inside the turret, and you were literally going vertically. You like rolled back and you were vertical and just going up this, and you went out over the top of it, still on a track, and then you would come out on the side and spiral down, free
Oh wow.
fall on this track, and then at the bottom there were a couple hills you would go through that would stop you, and it really took the wind out of you. It was freaky.
The one I never wanted to ride was the ones that looked like a spider, and the kind of the hands would go like this, and then they would have like a spinning thing on
Oh
top of
yeah.
the thing. Yeah.
I made a mistake of going on that once, only once.
Is it spinning in multiple directions? That and the other one that really bothers me, Kennywood, is the pirate ship kind of thing, where you're swinging back.
Horrible.
Isn't it the worst?
One
Like,
of
I
the
don't know.
worst experiences of my life was being trapped on that ride for 60 seconds.
Yeah, I was gonna say like you got stuck on it for like 2 hours. I got stuck on Space Mountain once, and we were at the top of the hill, and they told everybody to stay in their cars, and I was stuck there for 45 minutes.
Holy shit.
Yeah, in the dark too, because the lights went out.
Well,
So
then what happened? I mean, like the power came back on and they just started the ride again.
the power came back on, and they took everybody off the cars and shut the ride down. Meanwhile, it was like nobody. I was of like the age where I wanted to ride that, and my mom and my dad, my brother didn't want to, so we had separated, and we were supposed to meet at a certain time in a place. And obviously, I was already like an hour late, but I couldn't. There weren't cell phones back then. This is like 87 or 88.
Wow.
Yeah, so they had to literally like we all got off it like and had to walk up the steps, and there was just a door there. We walked out, and it took us to a certain place outside. I'm sure they have multiple doors throughout it.
So they stopped you on a hill and you got out?
Yeah, there's steps next to it. Like they literally, as they stopped the cars, they could move the cars to the side, and there was like a stairwell. 'Cause this happens, or that's a way that they get onto the track.
Wow.
Yeah,
That would freak me out.
yeah.
I'd want to be in the dark for that.
No, and you could still hear sounds of like, later on the ride because they were triggered by time periods, and you could see flashes. So but our section didn't have power. So I think they probably, obviously have multiple, sections so that it doesn't blow stuff out.
So next weekend on the Drive-In Asylum double feature, make sure you come back and hang out with us. We're going to be watching two fantastic films, The Incubus and Demons 2. Which one do you want to do first? Demons 2?
Man, that's a really tough question, right? Like, is Demons 2 going to wear people out because it's got so much action? I don't know. I'm going to leave it to you.
I think Demons 2. We should do that one first.
Okay. That sounds
I'll watch
good.
Demons 2 first, and then, Incubus can be like the lot clearer.
Yeah.
The one they're like, let's see if you want to get a pass to come back next week for free, make sure you stay.
Joseph, our guest next week, he sent me photos for the interview I did, and one of them is him standing in front of the house from the Sentinel screaming. The real house. And I was like, well, yeah, this is he understands what movies that we like. So
loving it already.
Yeah. So I'm excited. And he's got a lot of Amityville 2 knowledge because he just finished copy editing and helping to write a book about it. So he knows. He said he knows so much right now about Dino De Laurentiis, it's stuck in his head. So pretty exciting.
So make sure you come back and hang out with us for that next weekend. It'll be at the usual time, 8 p.m., since we're a double feature.
Yeah.
And
but I'm excited.
Make sure you go to the YouTube page, the YouTube channel, Groovy Doom, and subscribe on there. If you don't, we really appreciate it. And till then, be safe, be well, come back, hang out with us next time.
Night, guys.
Under 17 not admitted without parents or guardian. Under 17 not admitted without parents or guardian.